centre issues a bird flu alert for 4 states, Himachal Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan and Kerala, as large number of birds are found dead. The centre also sets up a control room to take stock of the situation. In a major snub to China, the WHO chief expresses his disappointment with the country as it imposed a last-minute ban on the team of international experts that are set to examine the origins of the COVID-19 in that country. On the first day of his visit to Colombo, the External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar addresses a joint press conference with his Sri Lankan counterpart and asserts that India is committed to strong bilateral relations with Sri Lanka. Heavy rain and hailstorm continue to pound the national capital Delhi and surrounding areas for the second day. The Himalayan regions continue to receive heavy snowfall. And in sports, the star batsman Rohit Sharma makes his comeback to the Indian Test team as an opener in place of Mayank Agarwal for the third Test in Sydney. To begin from tomorrow, pacer Navdeep Saini replaces the injured Umesh Yadav. So let's begin with our big story. Well, after confirmation of positive samples, the centre has issued avian flu alert to 4 states, and these are Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Himachal Pradesh and Kerala. 12 epicenters have been found in these states. Accordingly, an advisory has been issued each to the states so that they can avoid further spread of this infection. Department of Animal Husbandry and Dairying, the Government of India, has also set up a control room in New Delhi to keep watch on the situation and to take stock on a daily basis of preventive and control measures undertaken by the state authorities. The action plan on avian influenza includes strengthening of biosecurity of poultry farms, disinfection of affected areas, also proper disposal of dead birds and carcasses, the timely collection and submission of samples for confirmation and further surveillance, intensification of the surveillance plan, as well as the general guidelines for the prevention of the disease spread from affected birds and to poultry and then to humans also. Coordination with Forest Department for reporting any unusual mortality of birds was also suggested to the states. And Madhya Pradesh has declared it as a state-specific disaster, issuing a high alert in Mandsaur district. The Chief Minister, Shivraj Singh Chauhan, said that, in fact, he held an emergency meeting where guidelines were issued by the Government of India and they were discussed. So further suitable directions will be issued to the poultry farm owners and samples will be taken for regular testing. Earlier, the testing of dead crow samples at the National Institute of High Security Animal Diseases confirmed the presence of H5N8 in some samples from Indore and Mandsaur. And Nishad Bhopal is the nodal body for testing this disease. A control room has been established in Indore in view of the same.
बर्ड फ्लू में आज ही मैंने समीक्षा की है, चिंता की जरूरत नहीं है। जो बाकी पक्षी है कौवा सहित उनमें लक्षण पाए गए, लेकिन कोई भी पोल्ट्री फार्म में अभी हमने रैंडम चेक करने के निर्देश दिए, ये बीमारी नहीं है। मैंने कलेक्टर्स को निर्देश दिए हैं कि जिले में जितने भी पोल्ट्री फार्म हैं उनके संचालकों से बात करके पूरी गाइडलाइन जारी करें।
Well, the first case of bird flu was reported in Rajasthan when 50 crows were found dead on December 25 in Jhalawar district of the state, after which a curfew was imposed in and around a kilometre area of that region of Jhalawar town. This happened on December 31. Over 50 or more birds, and 50 other birds in fact, have been found dead in Baran district of Rajasthan. That happened yesterday. And the cause of the deaths of these birds has been speculated to be bird flu by the ADM of Baran district. And it's said that the samples of the birds have been sent to Bhopal laboratory for diagnosis of the case of the cause of the death.
अधिक पक्षी जिनमें कौवे, कबूतर और जैसा कि आशंका व्यक्त की जा रही है, एक जो चिड़िया है, जो जंगली चिड़िया होती है, उसकी भी मृत्यु हुई है। उसके संबंध में भोपाल लैब में सैंपल भेज दिए गए हैं और हमने जो पशुपालन विभाग की उनकी 4 टीमें पूरे जिले में गठित कर दी हैं, RRT रैपिड रिस्पॉन्स टीम, जो जाके सभी जो मुर्गी पालन की जो पशुशालाएं हैं वगैरह हैं, पक्षियों के जो और रहवास हैं, उनको चेक कर रही हैं।
About 2,700 migratory birds have died in Pongdam in Himachal Pradesh. So, the day after H5N1 was confirmed among hundreds of dead migratory birds at Pongdam Lake in Kangra district of Himachal Pradesh, the vet testing centers and wildlife authority have been on high alert. Rapid response teams have also been constituted and they're collecting the samples of the poultry from that region in a radius of about 10 kilometers from and around Pangdong Lake, as it was declared surveillance zone. The confirmation of bird flu in India was first reported among domestic crows in Jaipur of Rajasthan. It was followed by Pongdam and other water sanctuary areas in the country. So in Kerala, after the bird flu caused by H5N8 virus detected in 2 districts, the state animal husbandry department is on full alert to contain the outbreak. The bird flu has been declared a state-specific disaster, and the neighboring states like Tamil Nadu, they have also started taking safeguards in the matter, Karnataka as well. Meanwhile, as per the protocol, the culling of farm birds within 1 kilometer radius of incidents have begun in both the districts to prevent the further spread. Rapid response teams were already deployed for this urgent mission. Around 25,000 birds were already culled, and efforts are underway to complete the mission soon. And for more on this, we are joined by our correspondent Meghna from New Delhi, and also Ajay Joy is joining us from Thiruvananthapuram. Let's go to Meghna first. Well, Meghna, you know, there are 2 different strains here. There's H5N1 in some parts and H5N8. The concern is how quickly can this spread to humans? That's one concern. The other concern is how to keep the birds from just dying all over.
Mark, there has been no proof basically of if it can spread to humans. So definitely there's a thing that it does not spread to humans because there has been no case yet. But what also important is this.
Well, we seem to have some trouble with Meghna.
Virus. So there is a
Meghna, we are having a little problem with your audio, so we'll correct that and then we'll come back to you. We're going to Ajay Joy, who's joining us from Thiruvananthapuram. Ajay, the fact is that it is, they are trying to cull as many birds as possible to keep the infection from spreading. How is that going?
The culling process started yesterday. There are 17 rapid response teams doing
Yes.
their mission in 2 districts, actually 2 adjoining districts, Kottayam and Alleppey. So there are 5 epicenters in total. So as per the figures that were obtained yesterday, around 24,000 ducks, basically farm birds, were culled yesterday, following all the protocols as mandated by the central guidelines. And the target is to cull around 40,000 poultry in the 1 kilometer radius of each epicenters. And beyond that, for another 1 week, there will be strict monitoring of the birds and its ecosystem in the nearby areas for further monitoring. And the strain being detected here in Kerala is H5N8, which is less likely to be spread to humans, but still the authorities are on high vigil right now.
Yes, Ajay. But the concern is, that we have poultry, and then we have also birds that are normally in the wild. The concern is about crows and all those other birds which could spread the virus far and wide because they fly all over the place. That is the concern. How is that concern being contained in Kerala, Ajay?
In fact, it's not confirmed so far who spreaded the actual pathogen, but the assumption is that it spread through the migratory birds. But so far, there has been no incidence of migratory bird being detected with H5N8 so far in Kerala. But still, the authorities are on monitoring the nearby areas of these epicenters, basically, to track if they can get any sample from the migratory birds. And the monitoring is still going on.
Yes, Meghna, you're back with us. Sorry about the earlier confusion with your connection. Tell us now, I was asking you very clearly about whether this can spread to humans. There are two strains, H5N1 and H5N8. Yeah, go ahead.
8. Yes, Mark, there is no yet any proof that it spreads to humans. There has been no case yet. But also what is important is, putting first things first, it is important to know that this avian influenza, or bird flu as we call it, is a type A influenza virus. So
yes,
the fatality depends on its pathogenicity. And what important here is that majorly 4 states have been affected, and the bordering states, adjoining states have been put on alert as well. And like we have Himachal Pradesh, we have Madhya Pradesh, we have Kerala, and we also have Rajasthan. So when we talk about Kerala, culling is currently being carried on. So when we talk about culling, there are culling teams, rapid response teams and culling teams that are being formed. And after that, with slackline, with gunny bags and PPE kits and all of that, a proper procedure of culling happens. And after that, the disposal of dead birds happens at a burial site, which is also a demarcated site, which needs not to be anywhere between the habitat, which needs not to be anywhere near any water body. So these are also standard operation procedures that are, carried out for the culling procedure, which is the slaughtering procedure, which is a prohibitory measure.
Okay.
Now next is the center has also put out some guidelines, and center has also put out some instructions about the biosecurity of the poultry farms, about disinfection procedure. So disinfection is being carried out at several places and in several poultry farms in the area where 12 epicenters have been identified in these 4 states. So in the areas of these epicenters and in and around these places. What also important is when we talk about disinfection and all these things, the surveillance part is very important. Clinical, virological, serological the surveillance is very important. Also the migratory bird flyaway is being monitored. So all these things are being monitored, and also if in case the situation arises, central observers in the action plan which was devised in 2005, the action plan states that if required, central observers from the center can be deployed in the states for better coordination. Also foresters, forest guards, hatchers, poultries, all have been put on alert to actually report any kind of unusual mortality rate found in birds, ducks and all these avians.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Thanks very much, Meghna Dev and Ajay Joy, for joining us with those inputs. Moving on then to our developing story. Well, India is about to begin probably the biggest vaccination drive against COVID-19, and a couple of days from now, ahead of this historic medical intervention, the 2 vaccine manufacturers, Serum Institute of India and Bharat Biotech, issued a joint statement. They asserted a united approach to help India get rid of this pandemic.
The wait is over, almost. India could soon begin vaccinations against the coronavirus. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says it would be the biggest vaccination program of its kind in the world. Recently, 2 vaccines, Covaxin and Covishield, got emergency authorization from the government. Serum Institute of India, Pune, is behind the Covishield vaccine. It has been manufactured in partnership with Oxford University and British-Swedish company AstraZeneca, while Covaxin is a made-in-India vaccine manufactured by Bharat Biotech Hyderabad in collaboration with the Indian Council of Medical Research. On Tuesday, the 2 companies issued a joint statement communicating their pledge towards a smooth rollout of COVID-19 vaccines to India and the world. The statement reads, Mr. Adar Poonawalla and Dr. Krishna Ella jointly, on behalf of the two companies, today communicated their combined intent to develop, manufacture and supply the COVID-19 vaccines for India and globally. They said the more important task in front of them is saving the lives and livelihoods of populations in India and the world. Vaccines are a global public health good, and they have the power to save lives and accelerate the return to economic normalcy at the earliest. Now that two COVID-19 vaccines have been issued EUA, Emergency Use Authorization in India, the focus is on manufacturing, supply and distribution such that populations that need it the most receive high-quality, safe and efficacious vaccines. Both our companies are fully engaged in this activity and consider it our duty to the nation and the world at large to ensure a smooth rollout of vaccines. Each of our companies continue their COVID-19 vaccines development activities as planned. Both companies respect the great work being carried out by each other and put behind us the miscommunication and misunderstanding caused during the past week. We are fully aware of the importance of vaccines for people and countries alike. We hereby communicate our joint pledge to provide global access for our COVID-19 vaccines. An emergency approval was given to Bharat Biotech's vaccine according to prescribed regulations. Several other potential vaccines are undergoing trials in the country. Microsoft founder Bill Gates appreciated the approval of two vaccines for emergency use in India. Tagging the Prime Minister's office, Gates tweeted, quote, "It's great to see India's leadership in scientific innovation and vaccine manufacturing capability as the world works to end the COVID-19 pandemic." With Nitendra Singh in New Delhi, DD India.
Well, even as the mega vaccination drive is about to begin in India in the next week, the country is already witnessing a steady decline in COVID-19 numbers. The daily fatalities are below 300 continuously for the last 12 days, and the total active caseload of 2.27 lakh has further shrunk to 2.19 lakh. I beg your pardon, 2.19%. This is 2.19% we're talking about, and this is of persons who have been detected with the new UK mutant as well. Some people have been detected with the new UK mutant. India's present active caseload consists of just 2.19% of India's total positive cases, and the daily coronavirus recovered, those who are recorded in the country, they have been more than the daily cases registered since the last 39 days. These are those who have recovered. They are more. The recoveries have been improved. The recovery rate is 96.36% today, and the total recovered cases stand at 99,97,000. The gap between the recovered cases and the active cases is increasing, and the fatality rate lingers on at 1.45%. Well, the World Health Organization's chief, Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, has said that he's very disappointed with China as it imposed a last-minute ban on a team of international experts who were set to examine the origins of the COVID-19 in the country. A 10-member team had been due to set off in early January as part of a long-awaited mission to probe early cases of the coronavirus first reported over a year ago in China's Wuhan. According to Emergencies Chief Mike Ryan, 2 members of the international team had already set out on their journey to China, and one has now turned back and the other is in transit in a third country. China has dismissed criticism of its handling of the early cases that emerged in late 2019, although some, including the US President Donald Trump, have questioned Beijing's actions during the outbreak. So let's take a look at the WHO investigation into the origin of COVID. This was decided, in fact, it was announced in mid-December, and China was on board at the time in mid-December. It was a 10-member team of international scientists who were going to investigate the origins of COVID-19 in Wuhan. They had to travel to Wuhan for that purpose. And the purpose of the investigation, according to the WHO, was not to blame anybody. It was to prevent any future outbreaks. They needed to know where the virus was originating, how it was spreading, how it was circulating. That was the basic aim of this mission. And the mission, in fact, was the mission, they wanted to see how the virus began to circulate. The mission was expected to last 4 to 5 weeks. Let's take a look at the background of this. So there's some allegations that came into play after that. You know, in April of 2020, suspicions arose and there were allegations, conspiracy theories about a virus leaking from a Wuhan laboratory. So that gained some sort of currency. The US intelligence, in fact, at that time also wanted to know whether the outbreak began through the contact with animals. They wanted to know whether it was a laboratory accident. So these were questions that were raised. Later, China also spreads, the reports that came out of China, they said that the COVID vaccine, in fact, I beg your pardon, the COVID virus, they said that the COVID-19 started from outside China. It didn't even come in from China. So these were claims that were not substantiated. So there was need for investigation all round. Anyway, the WHO team was due to investigate this, and that is now. The WHO team, which was due to investigate, were denied entry into China. 2 members were forced to turn back. Another is in transit in a third country. And the stated problem is that they don't have visas. Well, they're all international diplomats. They shouldn't be really having a problem with visas. The WHO chief says he's very disappointed at this. The WHO has been assured that China is speeding up the process. So that's the current status with regard to that investigation. So to discuss more about this, we are joined by eminent guest, veteran diplomat, Dr. P.R. Chakravarty. Dr. Chakravarty, a bit unusual, one would think, that China doesn't want these people in their country at this point in time. One would think that, you know, they want to clear the air.
I don't think China wants to clear the air. I think China wants to build up a separate narrative. And once that takes some traction, like you mentioned, that this never originated in China, came from outside, and all kinds of other false narratives, in my view, so that, you know, the whole thing gets mired in a confusion, and the truth doesn't come out. Because China fears the truth. The truth is that it did start in Wuhan. How it started, of course, is a matter that needs to be investigated. China had agreed at the World Health Assembly that they will cooperate in the investigation. But today's action shows that they are unwilling, or they are stalling for some more time, so that they can do things, clean up their act within Wuhan or wherever the team is supposed to go. And the team would be filling a narrative which will suit the Chinese authorities. In other words, basically doctor a narrative which suits them, because they have been sort of had been in the receiving end of, you know, so many people have died. I think 85 lakh cases across the world and 19 lakh deaths that have occurred. And somebody has to take responsibility, and China refuses to do that. China wishes to divert it.
And there are some concerns also that, you know, even journalists who wanted to investigate were not allowed close to Wuhan or to ask questions. And there seems to be some mystery that's surrounding this virus and its origin in China at the moment. And the fact also is that, you know, China was able to handle the virus very easily after a certain period of time. None of their doctors seem to have been getting infected. Other people were getting infected. So there seems to be something that could be, you know, I mean, conspiracy theorists could ask questions, and probably these questions need to be answered. So when do you think, you know, that China will start cooperating with this investigation?
I doubt they will cooperate. I think they have already hidden a lot of data, and they have hidden the truth. Their doctors have died, actually. There was a famous doctor who came on social media saying that there is this virulent virus going around. He was actually reprimanded, and later on the poor fellow died.
That happened in February. That happened in February. I'm talking about a little after that. You know, they were very able to, they were quite easily able to stop the virus from spreading. I mean, they didn't.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was coming to that. In fact, they stopped it because they are an authoritarian state. They can close down cities. They can lock up people in their houses, etc. So it's easier for them to stop, unlike in open societies like India or USA and where you cannot really lock up people. And some people, you may have seen social media pictures of people being forcibly dragged away and put in certain quarantine areas, etc. China can do that because they have over 1 million Uyghur nationals in Xinjiang in detention. So China has those facilities. They have built those facilities to basically cow down their population. So they have succeeded. There is probably, but how much they have hidden is also not sure, because they have claimed so many people have died, but everybody thinks it can't be possible, given that China is a highly populated country.
Indeed. Also, the reports that surfaced recently in China towards the end of last year, that this virus didn't originate in China; it came from outside. How could one assess that to some extent? Also, the fact is that, well, this is a zoonotic virus. It came from animals into humans. That's the belief. Would you say that that's an area of that could be an area of concern, because perhaps what questions are being raised, whether this virus was a laboratory mistake or a laboratory accident, or maybe the virus was isolated in the laboratory and from there it spread to humans?
Anything is possible, because if you know that the Wuhan live animal market was quickly shut down, and because it was suspected that it may have come from bats. Yes. Because apparently the bat soup is very popular there, and people were having it, drinking it, buying it, and having it. So zoonotic, of course, means that it has jumped from animals, and that's why. Now, the other point is about China, trying to build another narrative. They, in fact, put up some scientific papers also, obviously prodded by the government. Some scientists came out with some fairly technical journal saying that they have analyzed the genome, etc., and it seems that it could not have originated in China. So this kind of false narrative, of course, those papers were quickly trashed by international scientists. So I think China is trying very, very hard to deflect attention from itself. And look at the way they have reacted to Australia's, demand for a robust and a transparent investigation, which has led to very bad relations with Australia, with China, applying sanctions on imports, etc., and things like that. So I think China is basically flailing around a bit, trying to prevent any finger being pointed at them. But the finger will be pointed at them, particularly now, when I think some amount of guilt is there. Otherwise, why stop the WHO investigation?
Right.
And of course, the excuses are that visa has not been approved, etc. We can make a million excuses if you don't want them to come.
So, but that's a question that you as a former diplomat can probably answer very easily. I mean, are visas really that necessary for people who are, carry a diplomatic, purpose? This is a WHO, which is, there must be international diplomats who at least have that status when they are traveling.
No, it doesn't work that way. Even a diplomat needs a visa. But it depends. If two countries have an agreement which says that diplomats do not need a visa, then those two countries, diplomats from those two countries can travel to each other country, but not all over the place. So I think this depends on agreements and international. And China, I do not allow anybody to travel into China without a visa, because it is an authoritarian country. It wants to monitor everything, all travel, all activity. So I think the visa issue could be the one that they are using. I think they are exploiting to deny entry to this investigation team.
Right, we leave it there. Thank you very much, Ambassador Pinakaranjan Chakrabarti. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Well, there's much more on Midday Prime, but right now we're taking a short break. Stay with us.
बढ़ो 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 मेरे संग बढ़ो 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 मेरे संग बढ़ो 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 बढ़ो।
कुछ इसी तरह बच्चों के साथ साथ बढ़ते हैं LIC के चिल्ड्रंस प्लान्स, जो दे आकर्षक भुगतान बच्चों की हर बढ़ती अवस्था में।
बढ़ो 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 मेरे संग।
Well, moving on now to our national prime segment. Well, the BJP has slammed the opposition parties for spreading lies over farm laws. The BJP has said that the government is committed to the welfare of farmers, and in an article, it's an article of faith. The BJP spokesperson Rajiv Chandrasekhar was addressing the media at the party headquarters in New Delhi today. Let's listen.
Despite the fact that this politics of lies is being rejected, the opposition parties continue with that for whatever reason. The farmers who are today engaged with the government of India on their concerns on the farm bills, the government has put forth their views. As you know, it is all in public domain. The government is deeply sincere, as has been communicated by senior ministers in the government, about the welfares of the farmers. And it is an article of faith which farmers who have not, farmers in Karnataka have decisively embraced, supported and shown trust in.
Following a hailstorm in parts of Delhi NCR, the national capital and its adjoining regions continue to receive intermittent rainfall, leaving the weather gloomy. The minimum temperature at Safdarjung was recorded at 13 degrees Celsius. It's raining, in fact. It has been raining in the national capital for 4 consecutive days now due to the influence of a strong western disturbance. And prior to that, around New Year, Delhi witnessed a severe cold wave. And last Friday, the temperature dropped to a 1.1 degrees Celsius, the lowest in 15 years. Meanwhile, the Met Department has also said that a fresh western disturbance is likely to affect the western Himalayan region from tomorrow. And from tomorrow, the IMD has predicted dense fog for 2 days as well. Meanwhile, snowfall and rains also continue to lash the hilly parts of North India, causing roadblocks, making day-to-day life very difficult for the people. Jammu and Kashmir, in fact, continues to reel under a constant smell of snowfall. Srinagar's Dal Lake is frozen, whereas the Jammu-Srinagar National Highway is closed. The district Doda is witnessing heavy snowfall, because Doda, of course, is in Jammu, but also with Kashmir and Leh, they are experiencing heavy snowfall. Leh received snowfall in the early hours today. Now, after a long spell of dry season, this winter Leh has been surrounded. Leh and the other areas, they received snowfall. So this was after a long time that Leh is receiving snowfall this time around. And the airport authorities, they pressed the snow clearance dozers into work to make Leh's runway at Kushok Bakula Rinpoche Airport operational for flights. In the first high-level bilateral engagement in the new year, the External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar is on a 3-day visit to Sri Lanka. Jaishankar addressed a joint press conference with his Sri Lankan counterpart Dinesh Gunawardene a short while ago. He asserted that India is committed to forging strong ties with Sri Lanka and added that India also stands for progress of the Tamil people in Sri Lanka.
Our support for the reconciliation process in Sri Lanka is long-standing, as indeed for an inclusive political outlook that encourages ethnic harmony. It is in Sri Lanka's own interest that the expectations of the Tamil people for equality, justice, peace and dignity within a united Sri Lanka are fulfilled. That applies equally to the commitments made by the Sri Lankan government on meaningful devolution, including the 13th Amendment of the Constitution. The progress and prosperity of Sri Lanka will surely be advanced as a consequence. As maritime countries in the Indian Ocean, India and Sri Lanka have a shared interest in ensuring maritime security and safety. We have a long history of cooperation in this regard. India, as many of you know, has been a first responder in some emergency situations. I'm confident that this domain of cooperation will continue to expand in the days ahead. We stand ready to enhance Sri Lanka's capabilities to meet growing maritime and security challenges.
The External Affairs Minister will hold bilateral meetings with the President, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, and the Prime Minister, Mahinda Rajapaksa, and the Foreign Minister, Dinesh Gunawardene. He will also meet several other dignitaries and business leaders during the course of his stay. And in some other news, India's first of its kind Fire Park was inaugurated yesterday in Bhubaneswar, in the city of Odisha, by the Chief Minister of the state, Naveen Patnaik. He did so via video conferencing. The Chief Minister, Naveen Patnaik, launched a dynamic online portal, Agnish Amaseva, of the Odisha Fire Service. So the Fire Park is a novel initiative. It's going to bring awareness on safety measures. The Odisha Fire Service Director General said that during their tour inside this park, people will be able to learn about first aid and fire prevention measures. Its purpose is to make people aware, informative, educative. Well, let's get you news now that's coming in from across the globe. In the United States, polls closed in Georgia today morning to determine both control of the U.S. Senate and the Democratic President-elect Joe Biden's ability to push through an ambitious legislative agenda. The Democrat Raphael Warnock has won the Georgia Senate runoff election, bringing Democrats within one seat of wresting control of the chamber from the Republicans. The race between the Republican Senator David Perdue and the Democrat Jon Ossoff hasn't been called. The Democrats need to win both these seats to take control of the Senate. The election day in Georgia comes a day ahead of the joint session of Congress to clarify the Electoral College vote and cement President-elect Joe Biden's victory. President Trump is pressuring Vice President Pence, who will preside over that session, to intervene in the tally. Let's now take a look at the COVID update from across the world. As of now, more than 8 crore 68 lakh coronavirus cases have been reported worldwide, with over 18 lakh 75,000 deaths. Over 6 crore 15 lakh people have recovered from the virus. The United States continues to remain the worst hit country by the pandemic. So far, it's crossed 2 crore mark, and the US has reported 2 crore 15 lakh cases over that number, with the death toll surging past 3 lakh 65,000. Brazil, in fact, follows the United States in terms of the death toll, with 1 lakh 97,000 deaths reported. In the United States, the New York governor, Andrew Cuomo, has said that his state has found the first case of the more contagious UK strain of the coronavirus. Cuomo, in fact, said that a man in his 60s living in a town north of Albany has this new strain. The man has no travel history, suggesting community spread. New York has carried out 5,000 tests for the new strain so far and has found 1 case. So Cuomo said that it could be a game changer if the new strain increases hospitalizations and forces the region to close down once again. So at least 3 others, US cases, this is of the so-called UK strain variant, they have been documented last week in Florida and California and Colorado. New York has a total of over 10,82,000 COVID-19 cases, with the death toll surging past 38,000. Well, according to the German Chancellor Angela Merkel, Germany has extended its nationwide coronavirus lockdown until the end of this month, introducing tougher restrictions to curb the surge of the COVID-19 infections. The new rules will restrict, for the first time, non-essential travel for residents of the hard-hit areas. All over Germany, restrictions limit the movement to 15 kilometers radius in towns and districts where the number of new coronavirus cases is above 200 per lakh residents over a 7-day period. The rules also, in fact, include a strict limit on gatherings since the first lockdown in the spring, with members of any one household being allowed to meet only one other person. Shops and restaurants will remain shut until the end of January. Schools continue to remain closed with online classes until at least the end of the month. Germany has a total of over 18,04,000 cases of coronavirus, with the death toll surging past 36,000. Israel will further tighten its ongoing nationwide lockdown spanning up to 14 days in a bid to tackle the swollen COVID-19 cases in the country. The stricter lockdown will come into force between January 7 and 8. Israel has already inoculated its 15% of its population. This is with the COVID-19 vaccine, and it has, but new cases in fact have skyrocketed even after the vaccine rollout. So the country has over 4,56,130 cases of the infection, with deaths standing above 3,490. Unusual development there. Well, Belgium began a large-scale rollout of COVID-19 vaccine program in nursing homes yesterday after an initial test conducted a week earlier in 4 locations on 700 elderly people. The general practitioner in charge of giving the vaccine to 48 elderly volunteers in Brussels nursing home Prince Royal, Francois de Vogel, welcomed the start of the campaign. The country of about 11 million people, they've suffered one of Europe's highest death rates per capita from this pandemic, with 60% of the fatalities occurring in nursing homes. The first phase of the vaccination will continue as planned, with 2 doses which will be administered, and they will be injected. So Belgium has over 6,50,000 cases of COVID-19, with a death toll which is about 19,000. North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un has admitted the country's economic development plan had fallen short in almost all areas as he opened a rare Congress of the ruling Workers' Party. On the first day of his work review on Tuesday, Kim said the results of last 5-year economic development strategy fell extremely short of North Korea goals. Kim said that he intends to comprehensively analyze in depth his experiences, lessons, and errors committed. Well, this is Midday Prime, and time now for news from the world of sports. And Narayan's going to keep us up to date with all the sports news. Over to you, Narayan.
Thanks, Mark. Let's get started with the playing 11 announced by India. India have announced their playing 11 for the 3rd test against Australia to be played in Sydney from Thursday. India have handed Navdeep Saini a test debut and brought Rohit Sharma back as opener. Saini replaced injured Umesh Yadav, and Rohit took the place of Mayank Agarwal. There were no other changes to the playing 11 that won the MCG test and levelled the series 1-1. Rohit last played a test for India in November 2019 when he made the transition from the middle order to the top. His last test away from home was the Boxing Day game in Melbourne in 2018, following which he left the tour early for the birth of his child. Later next year, he came back as an opener, scoring 3 quick hundreds in the 5 home test matches before injuries ruled him out of the test series in New Zealand and the first 2 matches of the ongoing series. And here is India's playing 11 for the Sydney Test match. Opener is Rohit Sharma, and followed by Shubman Gill, Cheteshwar Pujara, Ajinkya Rahane captain, and Hanuma Vihari is there. Rishabh Pant wicketkeeper, Ravindra Jadeja, Ravichandran Ashwin, Jasprit Bumrah, and Mohammad Siraj. So the team is here, finally announced, and Rohit Sharma is the vice captain, is back to the team, and to discuss the prospects of the Team India going 2-1 up in the Test series and a SWOT analysis of the India's playing 11. We have with a senior sports journalist, Malay Nira. Malay, welcome to the Sports Prime. India has announced the team for the Sydney Test. Rohit Sharma is back in the squad. How it will help Team India in the third Test in Sydney?
Kind of an opener in the current circumstances. As you know, India has been suffering all kinds of problems because of the injuries to the team, one after another. Our pace bowlers were not doing well, and then Rohit was also out. He last played a test for India in November 2019 when he made the transition from the middle order to the top order. And his last test that he played away from home was at the Melbourne Cricket Ground in 2018, following which he left the tour early for the birth of his child. And ever since then, he's had a very checkered 2020 in which he suffered injuries, and injuries ruled him out of the Test series in New Zealand and the first two matches of the ongoing series. But he's back in the team, and he has been practicing, and he's been doing a lot of practice in the net. And I think he was the natural choice for the Indian team to have as an opener, because the person that he has replaced, he has not been doing very well in the last few innings of his career, but by and large, he has replaced Mayank Agarwal, who was not doing very well, who has not clicked so far in the last few matches, if you see. Though he has a very good average, but he has not been doing very well. So I think
if you look at the transition of Rohit Sharma from middle to the top of the order, he made 3 centuries last time when he was given that opportunity. But this time playing outside India, how can he maintain that transition? The way he made dominance in the Test cricket after he was promoted up the order. But the situation outside India is quite different. He can maintain that.
Yes, it is different, and as you very rightly said, when he came back as an opener last and scored 3 quick hundreds, these 3 quick hundreds were in the 5 home tests before injuries ruled him out of the Test series in New Zealand. But here it's a different ball game altogether, because you are looking at the grounds, the pitches which are meant for pace bowling, and he will have to hold on to it. You can't go and start hitting like 2020 match. Here you have to hold the fort, otherwise there'll be a lot of pressure on people like Cheteshwar Pujara. So you don't want Cheteshwar Pujara to open, and therefore you need to go there, settle down, play your natural game, but be cautious. And that is where the test of the mettle of Rohit Sharma will be done. The entire world is watching the Indian team. It has gone through so many ups and downs, and it's a big challenge for Ajinkya Rahane now. And with Rohit as a vice captain, there's an additional responsibility. So an
additional responsibility is there for Rohit Sharma, as he is appointed as the vice captain of the team. First, Adelaide, Australia won that match, and that at MCG, a historic bounce back for the Team India after a historic low in the first Test match. And in the second Test match, the way they bounced back in the absence of greatest batsman of this era, Virat Kohli, and it was without the frontline pace bowlers, and many things were against India. And India played a fantastic cricket in the Melbourne, but right now the series is poised 1-1. What about the upcoming matches? Can India clinch, can win a series again in Australia, and a history they can rewrite here?
Well, they will try to. The odds are in the favor of India at this point of time, despite a roller coaster ride that they had and the lowest score in the history of Indian Test cricket. Despite that, all that notwithstanding, the way they staged a comeback in the second match. Now, when you look at what they're going to be doing in the third match, and despite the injuries, mind you, we played Ishant Sharma in the first match, and then after that, Shami and Ishant both were out. Now you're left with Bumrah and Siraj, and then Navdeep Saini has been called. So India are trying to put their best foot forward with the limitations that are there, but still I feel that it will be a very, very, not very evenly poised. I would say still it is in favor of India. It all depends on how solid a start the Indian openers are able to provide to the team. That is where it will matter a lot, how much pressure
Mala,
is
one
there.
more important part of this series is that we have seen debutants are rising on the occasion. Shubman Gill was there in the last match, Siraj is there, and in this time one more debutant is there, Navdeep Saini, and they have played their role and helped India to level the series. And this time one more debutant we say. A special thing is that India has a good bench strength as far as the test cricket is concerned. So we can say that these rising young stars will help India to win the series. At least we can assume that in the next match in Sydney.
Of course, you see, this is the strongest point of Indian cricket today, that we have the Indian cricket team has a very, very formidable bench strength. And if you look at the changes that India was forced to make under these circumstances, very unfortunate ones, a very checkered kind of a tour, then you look at this, there was a lot of talk about either Shardul Thakur or T. Natarajan replacing Umesh Yadav, but eventually Indian team has settled for Navdeep Saini, who will be a debutant here.
Right.
And I think that it will be a good option to have, and India still has a very fair chance, but you will have to hold
India
on.
still have a very fair chance to win the series in Australia. Last time India created history when they defeated Australia on the Australian soil for the first time. Thanks, Mala, for joining us on these mid Sports Prime and putting light on the third test match that India will play against Australia in Sydney tomorrow. After completing a 2-0 whitewash against Pakistan, New Zealand surpassed Australia to take the top spot in the ICC Test Team rankings and become the world #1 Test team for the first time in history. New Zealand have been impressive at the home after beating India 2-0 at the start of 2020. Once cricket started after lockdown, they beat West Indies 2-0 and have followed up that with a similar scoreline against Pakistan. On Wednesday, they beat Pakistan in the second test by an innings and 176 runs, riding on a double century by captain Kane Williamson and a 11-wicket match haul by young all-rounder Kyle Jamieson. Meanwhile, BCCI chief and former India captain Sourav Ganguly, who underwent an angioplasty following a mild heart attack, is now stable and will be discharged from the hospital on Thursday. The 48-year-old was supposed to be discharged from the hospital on Wednesday, but expressed his desire to stay there for one more day. Meanwhile, many people were seen standing outside the hospital to cheer him up. Ganguly was diagnosed with 3 blocked arteries on Saturday last week, following which a stent was inserted in one of the artery to remove the blockage. Now shifting focus to football, Tottenham Hotspur eased into EFL Cup final after overcoming Brentford FC 2-0. Sissoko's first half goal and Son Heung-min's second strike after the break got the job done as Spurs ended a run of 3 successive domestic semi-final defeats. That's all in the Sports Prime. For more updates, back to you, Mark.
Thanks very much, Narayan. And now let's get you our next segment, Live Prime, where we bring you stories from the world of art, culture, cinema, fashion, science, innovation, stories that are bringing you smiles and changing lives. Well, the music maestro A.R. Rahman turns 54 today, described as the world's most prominent and prolific music director by Time magazine. Let's listen to some of the artist's memorable melodies. And we leave you with that and conclude Midday Prime for today.
हंसती रहे तू हंसती रहे हया की लाली खिलती रहे जुल्फ के नीचे गर्दन पे जुबान वतन जाने मगर ये नयन एक सूरज निकला था कुछ बारा पिघला था एक आंधी आई थी जब दिल से आह निकली थी
नमस्ते लैंड
मरहबन इलल हिंद जरी इंडिया
सलाम इंडिया नमस्ते इंडिया
नमस्कार भारत
मुई
इंडिया
नहनु हुनूरा
इंडिया
माँ हिंदी हस्ती
हिंदिया
सलाम हिंदुस्तान
वी आर इंडिया
डीडी फ्री डिश, भारत की एकमात्र फ्री डीटीएच सर्विस। अब देखिए आपके अपने पसंदीदा चैनल डीडी न्यूज चैनल नंबर 1 पर, डीडी नेशनल चैनल नंबर 2 पर, डीडी भारती चैनल नंबर 60 पर और डीडी इंडिया चैनल नंबर 84 पर। डीडी फ्री डिश, मनोरंजन का संसार सीधे आपके द्वार।